computer. And let me start sharing my screen. And here we go. So welcome again to tonight's class. Today we're going to learn about inputs. You may think, how big of a deal is that? And the answer is yes, it is kind of a big deal. So here's what I'm going to do. Before I jump into how do we perform input operations, I just want to show you a very simple command here. If I just list all the items, the files that I have here, let me just type this command here, ls-a-l. And then after that, I will put one of the directories that I have here, for example, new folder, and press enter. So this is a command, ls, that is going to show me all the hidden directories and files in a form of a list. And it's simply going to do that for the new folder that I have within my directory. Now, this is the command that I just typed. We need to get into this command and try to understand what exactly we have here. First of all, the command itself, it's ls. You should know that ls by itself, it's a bash or it's a scripting file. It's an executable scripting file. So it's simply a file that, like the ones that we've been creating ever since we start talking about scripting. For example, my bash.sh, loops.sh, new loops.sh, all of these are simply scripting files. Okay, so ls is exactly the same thing. It's simply a scripting file, it's an executable scripting file. And that simply will lead me to my second part. So what are those? Those are what we call options. Okay, and options usually start with the hyphen. And then after that, we do have this part here, which is what we call a parameter. Okay, so simply the parameter is the piece of data that this ls will be implemented on. So we're going to show the items inside this folder. And the options here are simply going to show us or going to tell us how exactly we're going to be completing the task. Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because we are going to learn how do we create our own scripting files that could include options and parameters. And that's the main goal of this chapter. Of course, we're going to have to go through it step by step. And I can jump straight to the point. How do you get it done? But it will make more sense to understand the whole concept in a form of step by step. So here's another option you should know, that this format is acceptable, but also this format. I can separate those options in the form that you see here, and I still can manage to get the same exact results. So today, our main goal is, just like how we learned how to create those bash files, we're going to learn how do we create a script file, just like the list that we have here, where we can include parameters and options. The difficult part is the wide variety of how are we going to put those options and how are we going to put those parameters, how many options, how many parameters. There's a lot of details that we need to think about whenever we are thinking about using that format to create a file. So first thing first, we're going to create our first file to demo the whole concept. And let's go ahead and do that, touch, and we'll call it input. Okay, that's my file. And I'm going to take the sh for it, so it looks like a command, more or less. And then after that, we chmod user plus x, so it's going to be executable. And we called it input. Oops, what he didn't like about that. Oh, yep. That's exactly what I meant. Okay, so that's, and now after that, let me just change directory all the way to, no. Okay, now them, oh, I should have a way to get this job done. And I will say input. Let's see if this is going to be acceptable. Actually, that worked. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's start with the basic scripting. Oh, wait a minute, integer. So here we go. For some reason, then backslash hash. It's not doing the color code, so that is not a good thing. Let me just exit, quit. Okay. W, come on. I'm going to go and try to navigate through it. So let's just go home, faculty, z00m, and then input. Okay, here we go. So that's the file. And let's try again. Why are you not showing me the color code? Is it because I didn't put a SH? Should. Let's go. Then bash echo test. And let me just exit. Okay, so here we go. Let's try to run it now and see if it's going to be executable. And it worked. Okay, for some reason, the color code disappeared from my Vim editor. So let's get back to it. Oh, now we got the color code again. Okay, good. So let's start with the very, very basic operation. How do we perform some easy input operations? And I am going to show you how do we do that. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. For example, I want to ask you to enter your name. So I could come here and say, enter your full name. And then after that, of course, it will make more sense if I put -n so I don't go to the new line when I'm going to perform the input operation. Then after that, I'll just use the command called read, and read simply will perform whatever you're going to be reading from the keyboard. It will be acceptable and it will be read. And then after you press enter, that will be the end of the read operation. Now, the thing that you should ask yourself, well, so you are reading, but where are you storing whatever you're reading? And again, this is, if you have a background in programming, you should know that every time we perform an input operation, when you read from a keyboard or you're reading from a file, whatever you're reading need to be held inside a variable. And by default in Linux, there's a special variable that it's simply going to read whatever you're going to be typing on the keyboard. And that variable, and let me just type it here so you can echo, and I'll just type here, your name is, and here's the variable. Start with a dollar sign, of course, and it's all uppercases, REPLY. Okay, so that's the variable that will hold whatever you're going to be reading from the keyboard. Now, if I go ahead and get out and save my work, and if I run it, it would tell me to enter my name, so I'll go ahead. And your name is Amil Janabi, I can see here. So that's a very, very basic input operation. Now, of course, this is not our ultimate goal for this class, but it's just to show you that you can actually have a script file where some basic input operations will be performed. And this is, again, the simplest form of that. Now, of course, if you don't want to use the variable that is used by default, the replay here, you can create your own variable, for example, name, and all you have to do here, replace the variable here with name, and that will work exactly the same way. Now, this is an option. This is one way to get the job done. You have another way to get the job done, which, again, it makes a little bit more sense if that we start with read, and instead of having two lines, one of them echo to show the message and the other one to read the operation, what we can do, we can start immediately with read, but we just have to, we need to have this parameter P to prompt the user, show a message to the user, telling the user what to do. So again, I will just say enter your full name. And of course, if I want to use a variable, you type the variable here and put it as name. And then after that, I can simply just go ahead and echo that just like how I did before. And I'll type your name is $. Sorry, not name. Both of those two techniques simply will give you the exact same result. We can also, instead of reading one variable at a time, we can read as much as we want. For example, I can come here and say read -p. And by the way, today's chapter is not a very long one. Enter your first name and last name. So he's asking me to enter first name and last name. And I could come here and say F name and space and L name. One for first name, one for last name. And after that, again, when you're going to enter them, you're going to enter the first name, put a space, and then put the last name, put a space, and press enter. And now I could come here and say echo your last name is $L name, echo, and put your first name is $F name. Now let's go ahead and give those a try and see how they're going to work. Let's go ahead and exit WQ. Let's go ahead and run it. And here it is. I will just go SSDD, your full name again, SSDD. Now he's asking for the first name and the last name, RRTT. And you can see here that the last name is TT and the first name is RR. Okay, so here we go. Those are how we perform reading operation. As you can see, it's very, very straightforward. It's very, very simple. We do have other options that we can involve when we work with reading operations. And one of them, again, you can specify how long you want to wait for the user to enter the inputs. And if the time passed and the user didn't complete the process, simply you can show a message that telling the user that you were so slow and the time passed without you entering the information, and you can take different actions. The thing that you should understand here is that we're going to perform read operation. And if you perform the read operation within the time that you're going to specify, you're the one is going to tell how long you want it to wait for the user to enter the information. If you perform the task within that time, the exit status is going to be 0. That simply means you performed the operation with no errors, with no problems, and then you can take action based on that. But if the time passed and you didn't perform the input operation, that implies that the exit state is going to be 1, and that's going to be treated as false, and then a different action will be taken. So let me just show you how is that possible. I'm going to use the third example here to get the job done. So I'm going to come here and say if, okay? And I'm going to say read, and look at this, -t 5. So -t is an option, and 5 is the parameter. And I'm saying if the user didn't complete the task within 5 seconds, that simply means the exit status of this command will simply be 1, and that's going to be treated as false. And again, we'll do the same thing, -p, enter your full name, and we'll come here and say name, and that's again my if statement. And I will say if, and of course we have to put then, and we take what's the action that if it happens, echo, and we'll just say your full name, let's put a space here, is $name, else echo, we'll just type slow, and then end if, so fi. And that's again how it will work. Let's give this a try just to demonstrate this for you. Exit WQ. And now if I go to home and run it, you'll see here, okay, this is the first one. So we'll go, this is the second one, which is again, now this is the one that he asked for the first name and the last name, TTRYY. Now, this is the part he's asking me for the full name again. I'm going to wait for 5 seconds, and look what's going to happen after. And here we go, slow. So you see how, because I waited for 5 seconds without entering the information, I just got the message slow. Let me run it again. This time I'm not going to be slow. And I'm going to go. And now I'm not slow. And you can see here, your full name is YTUY. So you can see here that works. So let's go back again, clear. And I'm going to show you more options that you have when it comes to the read operation. We can specify how many characters you want to read. And that's going to be very easy. Again, whenever you specify the number of characters, the moment you enter that number of characters, the reading process is simply going to stop immediately after that. So it's not simply going to let you read 5 or 6 characters and then just take the 1 or 2 characters that you want to read. No, the moment you enter the number of characters that you specified, the input operation is going to be terminated and then the action will be taken. So I would say, let's go here, type integer, and I will say read again, this time -n, and you tell me how many characters you want to read. I'll just go with 1. I just want to read a single character. So we're going to prompt the user with a message, enter a character, and I will just say ch, for example. Then after that, echo, and I'll just say your character is $ch. So that's one option. Let me go to the second scenario, and it's going to be the last scenario that we're going to cover dealing with read command. This time, we're going to try to read something from the user, but simply the screen would not show the characters. So it's more like if you are reading, or sorry, typing a password. The only thing here, the password that you're going to type, you're not even going to be seeing asterisks or dots. Simply, you're going to be reading characters, but no indication of how many characters you have entered, and then we can show it on the screen. So how do we get that part done? Read, and we'll put -s, and then -p, and let's just say enter your password, and I'll say PD. That's the password. And then after that, I can go ahead and type echo. Your password is $PD. Now let's go ahead and give those two commands that we tried, those sections here, segment that I typed. Let's exit WQ. And let's run it again. Now he's asking me for the full name. I'm going to wait for 5 seconds to let it go. Okay, now he's asking me to enter a character. I'm going to try to enter 2 characters. So I'm going to go, for example, RY. I tried to enter RY, but the moment I entered R, the process stopped. And you can see here that your character is R. I'm supposed to add an echo after that, so it's going to go to the next line. I just forgot to do that. And now I'm going to put the password, the very, very famous password that everybody knows. And look at my password. Your password is, oh, where's this Y coming from? Maybe I typed it by mistake. Let me just go very fast and fix this part. Just have to add an extra echo here, so you'll be able to see it going to the next line. And that's pretty much it. Let's give this a try for the last time. Full name, I'm going to wait for the 5 seconds, slow. And then I'll go with a character. You can see here only E was printed. Oh, the Y. Okay, I see where's the Y coming from. The Y is coming because I entered EY. Now I'm going to see it again, or see another character. And here it is, the R. Previously, when I typed E, I tapped R with it, and only E was taken, was considered, and R simply was held in the buffer, and it was assigned to the password. Okay, so this here summarize the first part of the class of today, which simply is all about how do we perform very, very basic and simple input operations. Okay. Now let's move on to our next point. Now for our next point, and by the way, I think I uploaded all these segments. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this whole thing out because I really want to have the script file that I'm using here to be empty so I can demonstrate what's coming next. And again, what we're trying to do here, we're going to try to paint a big picture, but we're going to go in very, very small detailed image, and then we're just going to keep adding more details to it until we have a very, very good and clear understanding on how do we perform, how do we introduce options and parameters to our script files that we're going to be creating. So let's just take this out and let's start fresh. One thing you should know that whenever you run a file, a scripting file, an executable file, and you start listing, again, parameters, options, it really doesn't matter at this point. You should know all these values are going to be read using a very, very special types of variables. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me just exit and let me just show you what do I mean by that. Imagine this is my situation here. I'm trying to run this program, this script file, this bash script file. If I come here and say 12 and 13 and 14, those are just numbers, okay? Now I'm not talking about options. I'm not talking about parameters. I'm just having those three pieces of data, 12, 13, 14, which again, it could be anything. Could be it. Something like that. I really don't care what type of data, those three pieces of data that I have after the input. But what I want you to know that this line, this command, after it's going to be executed, there will be 4 variables are going to be generated automatically because of this command that you see here. Those 4 variables are the $0, the $1, the $2, the $3. Okay? And each one of those values simply each one of those variables will hold a value. The $0 will hold the name of the script file that we have here, which is supposed to be input. By default, it's not going to show only input, it's going to show the path with the input. I'm going to show you all of that. Then $1 will hold the value of Ahmed, $2 will hold the value of 12, and the $3 will hold the value of 68.092. Okay? So let's go ahead and see how is that possible. What's going on? What's going to happen when we run the program? But before we run the program, let's go back to the Vim and start working on that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say echo. Sorry, echo, and I'll put $0. And then I'm going to come here and say echo $1, echo $2, echo $3. Now, when I put those 3 values, I know because I'm going to put 3 numbers after the name of the script. And finally, I can do echo $asterisk. Pound. Now, the $pound will give me how many numbers you have after the file. So simply, in case the one that I showed you before, we'll have $sign to show me 3. Okay? Now, let's just go ahead and give this a try and see what's going to happen. WQ. And if I go here, and this is me running the program, so I'm going to go here and type my name, 12, negative 9.08, and let's run this. And look at this. First of all, he's showing me this is $0, this is $1, this is $2, this is $3, and finally 3 here simply is a count variable that will hold the number of arguments or parameters, sorry, that you have here. Okay, so those are, again, very, very important types of variables that you should be aware of and you should know. Okay, so let's go back to the program itself. Let me try another program. Let me take one of those out. For example, I'll just keep two. You can see here that he showed me the name of the file, and he showed me my name here, and he showed me 12, but there is no third one because, again, I don't have the third value. I just took it off, and he's telling me that the number of parameters that you have here are 2. Okay, so let's go back to the file itself and try to play with what we have here. Now, what I can do here, I can come here and let's just put the bash file name is, and this is something we talked about the other day, base name, and we'll put a space, and then we'll put double quotation here, $0 with another double quotation, and we are going to close it. Well, we do have an extra double quotation, which is that one. I need to take it off. Take it off. So this is it. Let's see. That's the one. And then this is the first parameter. This is the second parameter. This is the third parameter. This is going to show me how many parameters that I have. What I'm going to do, again, just to make it a little bit interesting, I'm going to come here and say if square brackets, and I will say $pound, and I will put not equal, or equal, sorry, 2. So I'm going to check if the number of arguments that you're going to enter are 2. Then we type then, and we'll see what action should we take. Well, let's just try to echo, for example, the summation of those two variables. So I'll put a double quotation here, put a $sign here, and we'll put $1 plus $2, and put a space. And we'll put an else here, and we'll say echo, you need 2 numbers, just in case you entered 1 or you entered more than that. Okay? Or you can put an error if you want to. So here we go, FI, and let's go ahead, exit WQ, and let's give it this a try. Now here it is. I'm going to put 2 numbers, for example, 12 and 23, and you can see here, oops, I do have a problem. Let's go back to the file and see where's the problem. Okay, then echo else FI. Okay, what are you complaining about? If this is the case, then show this, else show this FI. I really don't know what is he complaining about in this case here. Let's get back. And let me read the message. Unexpected end of file while looking for. Do I have a problem with the syntax here? Is unexpected end of file. Line 7 and line 9, the 10. Let's get back there. So I'm expecting he's talking about this line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then
you might be missing a double quotation mark at the end of line 2, though.
Oh, yes. Let's see here. Yep. That's probably what it is. I knew that I needed a double quotation, but it was in the wrong place. Let's run it again. And here we go, 35. He's adding them up together. Let's try to put a third value. And you can see here, you need 2 numbers, so he's not accepting it. And that's, again, a very, very basic form of passing some information to a bash file to perform some operations on that file. Now, what can we do in addition to this example? Well, we can have a for loop that could help us here. And instead of an if statement, let's say I want you to just go through the numbers that are going to be, oh, you know what? I just want you to add them up, for that matter. So here's what we can do. Let's go ahead and do that. I can come here and say echo, and I'll just say number of parameters is, and we'll put it again, $ hyphen, that will show me how many parameters that I have there. And now I can have a for loop that will go through those parameters. So I can start with the for, and I'll say param, for example, in. And here's what you need to understand at this point. We'll have a double quotation, $, and at command, simple. Now, if you go back to the chapter that we covered arrays, we said if you want to have access to the elements of an arrays, we use the name of the array, and between the square brackets, we put at. Well, here it is, again, the at symbol that will give us access to those parameters one by one. So if I come here, create a count variable, and let's set count variable to 0. In this area, what am I supposed to do? If I will go do, and I'll say count equal $, square brackets, count plus, let's just have some spaces here. And this is a variable as well. So let's just put the $signs here, put the $signs here, and then we're done. And then we'll type done. And after that, echo. And let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I made a mistake here. I'm not supposed to just, yep, this is going to add the previous counter plus, okay, and assign back the count. So that will work. Count. And remember here, the $. And let me just exit WQ, and it looks clear. And I'm going to run it again. This time I'm going to put 200, 300, and this should tell me the summation is supposed to be 653. Oh, I got an error again. Plus line number 7. Let's go and see why we have that error. And I can tell it's probably here. So why are you complaining about this? Let's see. Maybe the extra spaces that he doesn't like. So this is the operation. I'm supposed to take the count as it is. I. PAR. Oh, there's the E that doesn't exist. So that could be the reason. And let's put the $signs back. Let's see if that's the case. Run it again. And here we go. It worked. So that was the typo with an E. And here it is. I was able. Now you can run it as much as you want. And it will simply add them up for you. So you can see here how I'm making this program a little bit adaptive. So no matter what situation that I'm throwing at it, it's simply going to take it and process it. Okay, so this is one way to handle the situation that I just showed you. And there's another way we can actually get the same results. But this time we're going to use something called a command called shift. Now, shift simply will do the following. As I said before, you will have the $ with numbers. Okay, so we got the $0, $1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each one of those $ variables will hold a specific value. For example, the $0 will hold the file name, and then 1 and 2 and 3 will hold those parameters. Now, what we can do, we can deal with the situation in a different way where we are going to shift those values. So what do I mean by shifting those values? Simply what's going to happen, we can shift the $ value for 1 to be into 0, and for 2, shift 2 into 1, and shift 3 into 2, and shift 4 into 3. So we're shifting the values of these parameters, and then the first parameter that we have is simply going to be taking out. Okay, again, I will get the same exact results, but instead of me going through those numbers, we are simply only going to have access to $1. And then we shift the second one value to be in $1. Let me just show you in an example. What do I mean by that? And for that purpose, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here to this for loop and actually work on it here. So I'm going to come here and replace this with a while. And I'm going to take all this out. I want you to pay attention to what I'm going to do here. And I'll say while, open those square brackets, and type the following. -n. And then I will just type $1. Now let's go back to the -n. -n simply means it's not zero. So it simply means there is a value in it. Okay? And instead of parameter here, we're just going to add that value to the counter. Okay? But most importantly, after you're done, you shift. Okay? So what's going to happen? Shift. Let's say I'm passing the value 1 and 2 and 3. What are you going to do? We're going to check the $1, which is holding the value of 1 in this case. And since there is a value, so it's not 0, so that will make the exit status here to be 0. That's going to be considered okay. And then you're going to add 1 to the count. And then after that, you're going to do shift. Shift simply implies that the second value is going to be moved to the first value, and the third value is going to be moved to the second value, and the fourth value is going to move to the third value, and the first value is simply going to be taken out. So doing it this way, this will give me the same exact results as the previous one. So if I go ahead and exit, and if I run it, well, let's go back to the previous case here, and you can see here it's giving me the same exact value. So here's what's going to happen. At the beginning, and let me use the mouse here, 12 is the $1 variable. And after it was added to the counter, and after the shift. So what's going to happen when we shift? Shift simply means 23 is going to take the place of 12. 100 is going to take the place of 23. 200 is going to take the place of 100. And 300 is going to take the place of 200. And 12, as I said, is going to be simply deleted. It's going to be taken out of the memory. And then when you go to the next loop, now $sign is simply 23. And there's going to be added. And then after that, the 100, and then 200, and then 30. And then when you go, so for example, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. When you pass the 300, there is nothing behind 300. And this is where your while loop simply is going to be terminated. So here it is. Those are the two techniques that we simply can utilize to navigate through those list of parameters that are going to be passed to your code. Now, at this point, we need to start thinking about options. How do we deal with options? So we're going to leave parameters on the side, and let's talk about options. And then after that, we're going to put them all together and see how do they work. So let's go back to them. And I'm going to keep this here for the sake, just keep it. And we're going to talk about how do we process options. Now, when it comes to options, what you need to understand about options again, shows you how do you perform the task. So options again gives you, like whenever you write a command that has options, now we know the command is supposed to get something done, but the options will tell you how do you want that thing to be done. And you can have multiple options, multiple possibilities. So we're going to start with a very, very basic form, and you'll see that it's not going to be that much of a different. And you know what? Here, I'm going to actually utilize the same file because I don't want to keep typing every time I introduce something new. So again, this file, those texts that I typed already do exist inside the canvas. So you can have access to them. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to come here and say number of options instead of parameters. Options, number of options is. So that's going to tell you how many options. You can see it's very, very similar to what we had before. Now, what we're going to do, we are simply going to use the same shift techniques, okay? So we're going to go with while. Now I wish I didn't delete it. And we put the $ of 1 and put a space. And we go down and put do. And you go down here for the do case. What are we going to do? In the chapter we covered if statements, we talked about a very, very special situation, very similar to the switch statement in programming language called the case. So we're going to go type case. And we're going to put the $, where is it? $1 here. And we're going to look for matches in. Let's go talk about those cases. So we will have, for example, case of -a. And we'll have a case for -b. And we'll have a case for -c, for example. Those are the cases that are possible. And we have a case for default case with an asterisk. So what are we going to do for each one of those cases? Well, what can we do? We will come here at the beginning for case number A, and we'll just echo. Again, this could be any action you want to take. So in reality, you tell me how you want to execute the command if the option was A. You just echo, for example, this is option A. And we're just doing it for the sake of demo here. And the same thing I'm going to do here. I will say echo, this is option B. And for this, I'll say echo, this is option C. And for the last case here, I'll just type echo error, as if the echo message that you just typed is not acceptable. And of course, I forgot something very important. Every one of those commands should end with a double semicolon, double semicolon, double semicolon, and of course, double semicolon. I can type another one here. I'll just say $1 is not an acceptable. Did I type that right? Option. Well, that's not acceptable option. Oh, it's not an option. Okay. What else do we do here? We go down here and we end our switch statement, or ESAC. And most importantly, after that, you have to do a shift. And of course, after that, you type done, and we're done. So here's what's going to happen. Simply, this segment of script will read the stream of options that you're going to type one by one. And again, it's going to get through. And because of the shift that we have here and the while statement that we have, is going to go one by one to read them. And then it's going to look for matches. We got the case for -a, -b, -c. Remember, each one of those options, a different type of action could be taken based on that. And then if you type something that is not acceptable, you get the error message telling you that whatever you just typed is not acceptable. So let's give this a try and see how is that going to work. WQ. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put hyphens here. So we'll go option A, option C, option B, and option X, and then option A again. Look what's going to happen after I run it. Uh-oh. Oh, I ended up with an infinite loop. Let's go back here. Command Shift C. Nope. Control C. Okay. You go away. Let's see. Why did I end up with an infinite? Let's see here. Let's go back to the Vim and see what did I miss here. So we got while, echo, case. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with what I did. So the first thing is going to show me the file. The second one is going to show me how many options that I entered. And then he's going to go through The shift, it looks like the shift was never executed. That is weird. One thing you should know here, we usually have breaks, but for some reason we don't have breaks here. Maybe that's the reason. No. Let's see here. So this shift, let's see here if I have any. No, I thought there was a message.
Just can use for not an option like that, not acceptable option. Let's move out for that one. Last one, dollar one is not an option. That's right.
End of.
Yeah, last one it's a dollar sign is not a.
Your voice is very, very far from the camera, so from the mic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's my camera. Uh, Justin, right? A dollar sign is not an option.
Dollar
We don't.
sign.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Let's
that one right there. Last one, is the C
okay,
after last line.
let's go back here.
No, it's yeah, top up. Yeah, go right there. You delete for acceptable.
This whole
I
thing.
think just that one. No, no option. We keep it. Just on.
I think I know where it is. I think I should put double quotations here.
Yeah, there too. Yes.
Okay. So let's see if that's the case. Oops. Now let's go ahead and give this a try again. And now it works. So I just missed those double quotations. Thank you so much. Clear. Let's go run it again. And you can see here, he's telling me the name of the file, how many options do I have, and he's showing me option A, B, and C and B, and then X is not an acceptable option, and then show me A again. Now, again, the whole point of what I'm doing is me focusing on those options, but I really don't care about what type of action need to be taken for each option. In another word, the action that is going to be taking based on a match action, this is again something that's going to vary depending on the purpose of creating that file in the first place. So you can see here, let's just go back here. This script that I showed you here simply will give you access to those parameters, to those options, and you can use a while loop to navigate through them all. And then you can have the case statement here or segment to check the option with the action that you want to take based on that option. Now, what you should understand too here is that how do we put options and parameters together? And in reality, let me just show you how does it work. And then after that, we'll get into the code and see what can we do and what we have to do to be able to handle the situation. Okay, so first thing first, let's get back to the file. So for example, these are my options. For you to be able to write a mix between options and parameters, you need to use double hyphen here to separate them. And then after that, let's say P1, P2, and P3. Okay, so this is how traditionally we actually put parameters and options together. Now you have the right at this point to tell me, well, this is not how it looks in reality. Because in reality, and let me show you in reality, we type ls -l a, and then we put, for example, home, something like that. And you can see it worked. But let me tell you, in reality, this is what the right way to get it done. And let me clear, and let me write it again, show you. This is the right way to write the command. Let's just put it this way for now. You type the command name, and you put all your parameters separated with hyphens, and then you put a double dash and you put your arguments, parameters. This is how it's done. But again, yet, in reality, this is what we type. Okay? I will show you at the end of this class that you are allowed to do both ways. And when your script should have a section that will convert this format here into something like this, because this is the tradition way how it should be executed. But again, to make the job easier for people who are using these commands, we like to take those double hyphens away, and instead of me putting every single option separated by a hyphen and a space, put them all together with a single hyphen. So that's the case that we are going to cover at the end. But for now, let's go back to our case here that we're covering. This is how traditionally we should actually execute the line. Now, if I run it, you would notice that he's not going to accept the double dash. He's not accept the parameters. He will just accept the ABC, and this is it. You see here, that was not acceptable option, which it is not acceptable option. So I'll give it to him. Okay, so we just need to figure out how do we update our code to be able to process the parameters. Okay, and then after that, we'll look into how do we process the options and the parameters. So let's go back here to the Vim. And all we have to do here is simply add another case to match. And I want you to think about this here. The case that I'm going to be adding is for the double dash. Now, what is the point of the double dash? Double dash is simply telling you that you got to the end of the parameters. Okay? So the double dash again will tell you, it's used as an indication that we are done, with the options. And now you can start moving to process the parameters. So once you get to the double dash, this is what you do. You simply shift so you can get rid of that double dash. Is not going to be utilized or used. And most importantly, after that, you have to break. Break, in this case, will get you outside of the loop and will get you outside of the case statement. So this is very, very important that this break here is not going to get you out of the cases. It's also going to get you outside of this loop. But as a final result of what I just did, you should know for sure now the $1 will hold the value of the first parameter. So if I want to, I can come here and start with a new while statement. -n $1, and I will say do, and I'm simply going to actually echo, and I'll say parameter $1, and then after that shift, so you move to the second one, and then done. So you will notice now, after I'm going to run this program, it will show me the options, and it's going to show me the parameters. And of course, the echo part is simply for me to have access to that parameter. And of course, you can decide what action need to be taken based on these parameters and based on these options. So if I get out of here, and let's go back and run the same program, and I want you to pay attention how this is going to change. Press enter, and oh, wait a minute, I'm missing something. Line number 16, let's go back to that. Line number 16, what is he talking about? Again. There's a script. Oh, yeah, my bad. I am so sorry. Here we go. This is, by the way, one of the things that I'm not a big fan of scripting is those white spaces. They do have a very, very big meaning and deal. So let's go ahead and run it again. And here we go. It worked. So you can see here, the program now was able to distinguish and tell me that these are my options, and it's telling me that these are my parameters. And here we go. This is how simply it works. So that was a really an easy example. And next, we are simply going to be talking about what if, and this is very, very important, what if, let's say we have an option that has its own parameter. So what is that supposed to mean? Simply, it means, for example, if C has its own parameter, let's call it, for example, P0. You know what? Let me just clear. And let me just go back here. I'm talking about C, for example, here, and it has its own parameter. Okay. My terminal is frozen. Oh, come on. Yep, I was disconnected. Broken pipe. Try to get connected again. And now I'm back. Okay, let's go back here. So this is my case. I'm telling you here, if C has its own parameter in the execution, so I can take, let's put this P3, let's go back, take this P0 away and run it. Of course, it's not going to work. Oh no, did I lose it? No such a file or directory? Oh yes, of course, because I'm not in the right place. Let's get back. And now if I run it, yep, here it is. You can tell me, you can see here that P0 is not an acceptable option. And I hope you guys are being able to see that. So here it is. What do I do if I have a case like this? And this is, again, a case that commonly happened with no issues and no problems. And you have to actually have a case for it whenever it does happen. So how do we deal with a case like this? Well, again, you're the one who's going to decide. Let's go back to the Vim. Come on, where's the Vim? Here it is. And we're talking about C. We said C is the one that comes with a parameter. So what do we do in a case like that? Well, we know we found a match for the C. And here's what we do. We come at the C section here. Let's just put it here. And we know, remember here, we know that C comes with an option. Okay. And because we know that, we're going to create a variable. We'll call it, for example, parameter, for example, or param, or whatever you want to call it, and assign, very important, 2 to it. $sign to it. So we know $1 equal -C. This is where the match happened. And we know that -C, the character, sorry, the element after that, which is $2, is holding that parameter. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to take that. Okay. I'm going to take that parameter and this $2 and store it in the parameter. Okay. And you know what? Instead of A, I'm going to put $1 here. Oh, wait a minute, not here. Let me just go back and fix this. So instead of showing me option 1, show me actually the parameter. So I'll just go $1, $1 again. This is $1 again. So those are the cases that I have. But here for this parameter, we already read that parameter, so we have it there. And what do we do in a case like that? After you show me that parameter, you do a shift. So you move to the second case. Now, when he doesn't use the color code, he freaks me out a little bit. Of course, because I have to put the double quotations here, I need to take those from here at this point. And now it's working. So whenever, again, in a case like the one that I showed you, where I know C option by itself must be followed by a parameter or two for that matter, then what I want to do, I want to find a way to store that parameter in a variable, and then after that do a shift so I can get rid of it to move on to the second option. Okay, so again, I was reading my parameters one by one, no problems, but again, I got to the C, and I know that the C should come with a parameter. So what I'm doing here, I'm reading that parameter, I'm taking the action of option C and whatever it is, and then after that, I'm shifting so I can move on to the second option. So let's get out of here and let's run it again. This time, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with C here, and I'm going to put A here. I'm going to take this parameter from here because we know C is the only one that needs a parameter. And then I put A and B, and then we continue with the process. Okay, this is again to show you that it's extremely important when you write a command, you know the options and you know the parameters, and you write them exactly the same way they should be written. Now, at this point, let me just put it this way. At this point, we didn't get to the point where I'm supposed to show you how do we put them all together, okay, in a case like this. So, for example, I'm going to run it just for the sake of running it. And you can see here that he's showing me C and B and A, no problems. And I know for sure that there's a parameter variable holding P0 in the program. But again, later today, I'm going to show you that we should be able to write this command in the following format. And this is not going to work, but let me just run it and let me clear and let me run it again. This is the format that I'm looking for. You can see here it's not working. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's totally okay. We're going to get to a point and we're going to see how does it work. But in reality, at this point, we know that this is the acceptable format. This is how it's supposed to be written. And let me just repeat what I just said. You have a list of options. Each option is a character, and before the character you have the hyphen, and then you have a list of parameters, and those two lists are separated with a double dash. And there is a case where some parameters may have some options or option, and then you know this is what you need to take consideration at, and you should know how do you get it done. Okay, so with that being said, we can move on now and start talking about how do we, very important, get the first format that I had there. Where is it? This one to be acceptable. How do I get it to this point? In another word, if I have a command, I should be able to write A, B, C, P1, P2. This should work without the need to write it as hyphen A, hyphen B, hyphen C. I should be able to write it the first way I did it instead of this one. So we need to know how do we get this part done. And it's really not that complicated. And what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to try to demonstrate that for you here. Actually, not necessary here. We have a very, very important command to help us here. It's called the get opt, G-E-T-O-P-T. Okay. What I'm going to do a demo for you without getting into the file itself in the terminal here. Let me just have a cup of water. And let me show you how is that possible. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to come here and create a variable. I will call it O1. And I will make, this is again just demo to show you the effect of the get up. I'm going to put a $sign, open parentheses, and type get opt. Now in this area, here's what I'm going to type. I'm going to type, for example, ABC. Those are my options. And after that, you follow that with look at this, you follow that with the format, the acceptable format of the format that you want it to be, to look like. So for example, for me to be able to run a script file with options and with options and parameters, I'm supposed to type. Remember, the ABC here represents the options. I'm supposed to type -A, -B, -C, -- P1, P2, and P3. This is again how I told you. This is how it works. But my job here, no, I want this. P3. So the get OPT opt simply will convert this command that I typed that is acceptable to the one that I wanted to use into the acceptable format. So if I go down here and type echo $01, look what 01 is going to hold. -A, -B, -C, -- P1, P2, P3. So what is that telling me? Let me just put it this way. If I go back to my original case, and you know what, let's just change this to be -ABC, and then I'll put P1, P2, and P3. And again, if I run it, it will not accept it. It will not give me the values that I hope I will get. But again, look at this. If I can read this from the command that I just typed inside the script file and then convert it to the format that is acceptable by the script file, everything should be fine with no problems. So this get up simply will let you write the command in this format and read it and take it as it is. And inside the file, you can convert it to the format that is acceptable by your script file, and the things will just go simply and easy and smoothly after that. But we need to go through this get opt because we have many, many different possibilities. So this is a very, very straightforward case where you have a group of options followed by a group of parameters. But the question is, what if we have, let's say, some options that comes, where is it? Come on. Oh, here it is. Some option that has some parameters. For example, let's say B should have a parameter. Okay, if B should have a parameter, you put a colon here. Okay, and because you put a colon here, it's extremely important that you come here and fix that. You put a space here and you put, for example, P0 as the parameter of P, and you put here -C. Look what's going to happen if I execute this. And if I go and echo $01, oops, what did I just did? 01. And look, it simply took it as it is and showed me that P has a parameter P. Now, of course, that is applied to any of them. If I want, for example, to have A to have a parameter, then after that you put A and you come here and put BC. And now if I output it, you'll see that A has the parameter and BC are separated. So you can see this. This is very, very extremely important and very simple and easy at the same time, that the get opt simply will give you a chance to write the command the way you want it, compact, okay? And then the get opt simply will take it and convert it into the way you want it to be treated as. We can have, I'm just going to keep going with some cases. What if I want A and B to have some, okay, let's say A and C to have some parameters? Well, here we go. We're going to put A here, we put B here, and you keep C here, and you come here and put P4, for example, for C. So let's look, how is this going to look like? And then if I echo it again, you'll see here A has its own parameter, B is separated, and C has its own parameter. And then you got the double dash, and then you got the three parameters after that. Clear. Now, the question that you should ask yourself, how do I apply that into the script file that I just created a second ago? One thing you should understand here that the get ops simply have two jobs. The first job is to simply add the double dashes to separate the parameters from the options, and also has the job of separate the options that you put them all together into single options separated with a space. So the question is, how do I utilize getopt inside my script file? And the answer here is very simple. You need to use another tool called set. And set, again, is very, very straightforward, very simple, and very easy. Now let's go back to our original case here. And I think this is the case. Yes, this is the case. I said that C has a parameter. And if I want this to run, let me just go back and put it here. I have to put -b and then double hyphens and a. This is how it should work. And if I run it, you can see here, it's working with no problems. Of course, he's not showing P0 because I didn't ask to echo it, but it's working. What I want to be able to run this program and execute this program, but only to write it like this. -c P0 -ab and then list of parameters. Okay, so if I'm going to run it, I can guarantee you it's not going to give me the values that I'm expecting. So how do we fix this? Again, it's very, very straightforward. And I'm going to go and get this done, and this will be the end of this chapter. So let's go to the Vim. All you have to do at the beginning of your script, type the following: set --, and then open a $, and then you open a parentheses, and you come here and type get opt. And remember here we have A, B, C, and we know the C should have a colon because the C is the one that has a parameter. And then after that, we type the format that we want it to be printed at. Now, let's see here if this is gonna work. Yes, it should work. Okay. I think I am better if I stick with the order of the variables. So it was AB after that, I believe. Okay, so we'll go space, and we said -c P0, and then -ab, and then P1, P2, and then P3. I said this is the format that I'm hoping that it will work with. And let's go ahead and exit. And let's see if I run it again. Again, I'm not supposed to see the output that I'm going to highlight here. My goal here is to be able to see this output. And remember here, I was able to get this output when I entered the parameters and options in this format. And when I try to enter this format, I got all this mess. And now I'm trying to run it again using the same format that I have here. And I'm supposed to get the same results. I'm going to give this a try. And it didn't work for some reason. Let's say here, get command not found. Did I misspell it? Oh, get opt, of course. OPT, no space. Let's go back again. And here we go. It did exactly what I wanted to do. And you can see here, P1, P2, 3, options C, A, B, and it worked. Okay. So this here is the end of this chapter. And I will tell you, like, the main goal of this chapter is to be able to perform this part. And again, at a certain point, you're going to be creating bash files, script files, executable files, and you want to give the user an option to pass some parameters and options to your file, again, because your file needs some data to process, and you want them to be taking, let's say, the format that every other command takes. And as I said before, by default, let's just go back to the default case. This should be acceptable with no problems. But as I said, for us, this is a lot of typing. And our goal here is to be able to sum all the parameters together. Sorry, all the options together. And there is no need for the double dash for the script to understand that this is a list of parameters and this is a list of options. And here you go. This is the case that we have. Of course, let's see if I take, for example, C with its own option, even though the C, this is option C. Well, how did that work? Even though I took C away, A and B worked with no problems. Yeah, again, this is why you have to stick with the format. If you want to run it, this is again the format that you have. You have to put -C and the parameter that comes with it and ABC. And again, when you create your own bash script file, you're the one who's going to decide what parameters and what arguments should be passed. And you're going to decide the order. And of course, you can mix and match the orders. But if you want to go through that route, it's just going to be a lot of code that you have to type to take all the possible considerations that you may have. But again, for simplicity, we're just going to focus on a very simple case. Your command that you're going to create should take some parameters and some argument options in a certain format. And this is, again, the format that's going to be acceptable, and it will work with no issues. So let me stop sharing. And let me stop recording so the video would not be that long.